lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance.
Oh, I have got a great guest for you today, everybody. We are going to be chatting today to the wonderful Peter Pearson. I am very excited because this is yet another one of those areas of running a dance school that I feel some of you might be missing a bit of a trick on. And there's a little bit of a play on words there, but a bit of a pun, because Peter is the founder and business owner of Acrotrix. Peter, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Deborah. Thank you for having me. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about acrobatics classes today. And like I said, there's quite a lot to talk about around this subject. But before we dive in, Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself, and in particular, how you went from presumably having an idea, a concept, into creating Acrotrix.
Okay. How long have you got? My background, if I could do it in like an elevator pitch, is quite diverse. I was going to say convoluted, but there's negative aspects to that word, so I'm going to say diverse. I was a gymnast growing up, amongst other sports. I did multitude of sports. I was just that kind of person, always outside. Gymnastics was my main thing. My secondary sport was rugby. I did basketball, football, these different things. I just liked sport, and even now as an adult, I just love watching most sports on the TV. It could be the most random sport apart from darts and things. I don't really consider those sports. Sorry if anyone is a darts player in here. But yeah, generally sports. So gymnastics was my thing. And when I turned 15, it was very simple. My coach said to me, do a course because you already know most of the sport, so it'd be quite easy for you to coach. And at 15 years old is probably the best salary you're going to get as a 15-year-old, which it definitely was, and didn't feel like work. So went into coaching around GCSEs and A-levels, and then did my second or third course just before I went off to university. And at university, I was studying science, studying chemistry, and then went into my master's, did chemistry and entrepreneurship. And as outside of that, I loved, and gymnastics was always part of me. So I decided to start the very first gymnastics club that the university had. It's quite a very established university, which is strange that I didn't have one. So I started it, and it's still running today. I still get notifications on Facebook, which is great. And I'm talking like I graduated in 2009. So gives you some sort of legacy. And then I went into world of finance. I was a trader for about 7 years, give or take, in commodities, raw materials, steel. And that was part of the finance world. And I always coached alongside of that. Always coached gymnastics. Just always wanted to be in the gym, as well as my day job was a bit crazy. I was doing other things as well. I was running events, nightlife. I was also tutoring as well. I had about 6,000 different things running on. But my main two things were my trading and my gym coaching. And I was then recruited to become the lead acro coach at Sylvia Young Theatre School, which is a very prestigious theatre school that a lot of people know. Has a lot of celebrities that have been through that school. And that's when I was really introduced into the world of performing arts and really ran with it, to be honest. And then I was asked to do workshops for a few dance schools and performing arts schools. And then that turned into, I'm really fast forwarding across a lot of different things, but I'm just aware of the time. That then graduated into me running around the UK, Europe, I even went to the UAE as well, doing workshops, acrobatic workshops for dance schools and performing arts. And then people asked me if we ran teacher training courses. So we started supplying that demand, which is now one of the main things we do. And yeah, we've been we've amassed the team over lockdown accidentally because we created an online platform to make sure that, children, teens, even adults as well, could do something and continue whilst we were in lockdown. And that went really well. And that's how we ended up amassing a team. We've got a team of 14, I think now. And yeah, we've continued from that. And it's just gone from strength to strength, really. There's a lot that I've skipped over. But
yeah, well, there's a lot. You've done a lot. You've clearly done a lot. It's been a real journey to get to where you are now. So that's kind of given us some great insights into, your background and how it kind of all evolved. But acrobatics in itself, in terms of being another class, another timetable, another income stream for dance schools, this is kind of not new, but it's relatively new in terms of it's not part of a traditional dance school. Like, what do you think, how did this come about? How did we suddenly go from no one taught acrobatics in this to it now being pretty mainstream? How did that happen, do you think?
I mean, a lot of people like to reference a particular show from the US, which we all know, with a particular person. And that may be part of it for sure. I personally think it's just the world got smaller in a way, if that makes sense. Because as you say, a traditional dance school, a ballet school would look at gymnastics and say, "Don't you dare do that. That's gonna destroy your lines," and so on and so forth. Gymnastics school would look at dance school and be like, "You don't have time for that. You need to continue with the." And now gymnastics school will have dance teachers regularly in their lessons. And as you say, dance schools and performing arts schools regularly have acrobatics in their schedules. I genuinely think it's because the world became a bit smaller in terms of social media and I'm going to sound like an uncle right now. I'm going to say the rise of the internet. Can you imagine? I just said that. Anyway, people that like, oh no, can we cut that? Let's not. The rise of the internet. Sounds like the rise of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I think we definitely became a lot more knowledgeable about what was out there, and not just in our own bubbles, if that makes sense. Our bubbles effectively not burst but expanded. So I think that was the reason, personally.
And you referenced an American show. Obviously, we're talking about Dance Mums. And we looked at a lot of their routines. And I know that there was almost a kickback against the acrobatics. And, you don't put acrobatics in, lyrical dance and all that kind of thing. Do you think there's still some of that now, even here in the UK with all our acro classes that dance schools run?
It's not as prevalent, but, it exists. But I'll be a bit controversial on this. People just not wanting to change. And in the UK, I'm born and bred here. We don't like change. It's as simple as that. We don't like change. And people hang on to these ideals, not knowing that the world is changing around them. And it's also, it's actually a bit egotistical to say that this thing shouldn't happen because of my opinion. And it's like, okay, so do you have any data to back this up? Do you have any reasoning? What's your logical reasoning to move forwards with this? And I don't want just your feeling. I want to know why. As you can tell, I've always come from an analytical background, a very logical background. I need data. I need like logical reasoning if there isn't numbers behind it. If that doesn't exist, then I can't back what you're saying. I think it's just down to a lot of stubbornness to change, personally.
Yeah. That sounds about right. In terms of, I'd love to ask, you've created this wonderful business and, we can all see how successful it is. You're out there, one of the main suppliers, if you like, of teacher training for acrobatics. I'd love to ask, from what you've created, and this is more a personal thing in your journey, how does this new business serve you? What have you created that you love that fits in around your life? Because I speak to a lot of dance school owners and clients, and, they feel like the business runs them rather than the other way around. How does Acrotrix kind of work for you at the moment?
So part of what I skipped over was like 8 years of my life where I owned my own acrobatics school. And 1000%, that's what I felt. That is one wholeheartedly how I felt. The business ran me until, I'll take you through a little story, until my sister-in-law turned around to me one day, and she's a lovely person. She's one of the most amazing role models I've ever come across. She turned around to me one day and said, Peter, you don't have a business, right? And I said, what do you mean I don't have a business? Of course I have a business. And she said, okay, so if I remove you from the business, does it still run? And I said, started stumbling on my words. And she said, that means you've got a glorified job. If the business does not run without you, you have a glorified job. What is the difference between that and what you did before? And it was very hard to swallow those words. I kind of muddled through and carried on. And then probably about 2 years later, I realized the depth of what she was saying, and I completely understood. So fast forward, Acrotrix has, the way that I've learned from what I did with my acrobatics school to what I'm doing with Acrotrix, I now can remove myself from the business and the business still run. And that has afforded a lot of life changes for me. You talked about your child before we went on cam. I have not newborn anymore. She's newish. And I knew for a fact I did not want to be away from her development. I did not want to be working every week, every evening, every weekend, which is what I did before. Competitions, far-flung paces all the time, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely enjoyed every single moment of it. Watching the students develop and so on and so forth was just it was my world. But I realized I wanted a new world, and building Acrotrix has allowed me and afforded me that, I'll call it a luxury in a way, because I've decided consciously to build the business in that way. So yeah, I can now say I have a business because if I remove myself, it still runs.
It still runs. That's fantastic. And something that I think a lot of people aspire to be able to do. So great next question then. What would your top tips be for people that run dance schools or acrobatic schools that want to be in the same position? What is it that they need to create? And what would your advice be around that?
Slightly controversial again. Let go of your ego. 1,000,000% let go of your ego. You are not the best at the thing you do. No one is. And to kind of think that if you don't do that thing, then it's not going to be done as well as you. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. Maybe it won't be done to the exact same, not level, but same way that you do it. But someone is out there that can do it just as well, or in a slightly different manner, but affords the same results. So I would say let go of the ego. Completely let go of the ego. Even let go of the ego thinking that it's not your ego. I know that's a bit convoluted, but there's an ego thing there to say, so, well, I don't have an ego. Yes, you do by saying that. So, sorry. So let go of that, which don't get me wrong, I had an ego for nearly 10 years around it. Let's say 9 years. And overnight, I always thought, no, this is ridiculous. So that, and then letting go of the ego will allow you to get help. Will allow you to not get help, but seek help. And say, okay, if I'm going to be able to remove myself from this business, but also be part of it, I need resource. And one of those resources is human resource. So once you've let go of the ego, it's so much easier to then ask people, are you interested in doing a few hours here? You may be one of my teachers. What about a bit of marketing? Would you like to do a bit of that? I'm not quite sure how I would run it, but I would just like to know if you like more opportunity, more hours, that kind of thing, which allow me to take a step back from doing everything and therefore concentrate on growing the business. And if I grow the business, then naturally that benefits you as an individual within the business and so on and so forth. So top tips, let go of the ego, seek help. What else? I speak to a lot of owners about this every week. I guess those two things, they're an umbrella for a lot of smaller things, getting into the details. And again, rustle a few feathers here, I'm so sorry. But like, concentrate on the money as well. Not in this country, we're like, oh, taboo, money, don't talk about salaries, don't talk about how much you earn. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. I can never tell you how much is in my bank account. Like, it really annoys me. But anyway, think about the sales, think about the cash flow, think about the finances, record it, look at numbers, because that's the only way that you're going to grow. That's the only way you're going to find, I'm not going to say freedom. Freedom doesn't really exist, but that's the closest thing that I can, that's the closest word I can use. But look at the numbers. Like, for years, I did not look at my numbers. I thought I knew them. I was like, yeah, I'm getting X amount a month. So, and I'm kind of paying my teachers this, and then, okay, but if I was much more concerned with loss aversion. Oh, but if I have to get cover from this, then I'll have to pay an extra £10 more. And I was very much concentrating on the tiny, minute things that did not move the needle. And now I'm in a place where I'm thinking about things that move the needle in terms of growth. So if there's a mindset shift that has to happen, is to get out of this nuance, this thinking of the operations day to day and being in it, which is so hard to do. I'm sure you recommend this book to your audience, the E-Myth, by Michael E. Gerber. Like, that book is gold, because it really goes through getting from actually working in the business to on the business. So I think it's a mindset shift, and it doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Some really great thoughts there. And I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the first thing is we have to accept that there is someone out there that could do just as good a job as us, if not better in some areas. Most dance school owners start by wearing all the hats and having a jolly good go at everything, but that doesn't make you a graphic designer. It doesn't make you a social media strategist. It doesn't make an HR professional. They're all the different hats that we wear running a dance school are all bona fide careers where you can go get a degree on each of those things. So we are just, with all disrespect and all respect that and love to all the people listening to the podcast, we have to accept that we are not pros in most of the fields that we're trying to be pros in. And therefore, this concept of, I can't get anyone else to do that because they won't do it as good as me. I think, there's a part of us that, I understand where it comes from. It's the fear letting go thing, that it is the thing. But, it's also, like you said, it's the egoic part of us that kind of, it's actually a bit ludicrous to think that somebody else out there can't do as good a job. And if they're trained in that field, they're going to do it 100 times better and 100 times faster. A lot of people say, oh, it'll take me so long to delegate that. And, it costs a lot.
Have to train them up
Have to train them up. You have to train them up in terms of the way that you want it to be done. But, there are people out there with skill sets way above what you've got that will do it not just better, but faster as well. And I think that when we can get to the stage that we can accept that, I have a famous saying I'm saying all the time is, you have to let go to grow. And when used to the fact that actually letting go of some of the control and trusting other people to come into the business, and we start to delegate a few things and we start to hand over some responsibilities, in particular, as you get a bit more and more handing things over, things actually letting your office manager run all of the admin side of things, having somebody that is head of your team, like that does all your team meetings. It's a stage you have to go through, isn't it, Peter, to get to the stage you can run yourself complete.
100%. And just talking about office manager, like, I have an amazing office manager. Shout out Trina. She's like my world. if I didn't have her, in fact, there was a moment she went away to the US last year, and I was like, what the hell what am I supposed to do? Like, it was supposed to do, we delegate tasks out and things, but that, like, she's way better at what she does than I am. And I tried to do it myself before. Like the customer support, all that kind of thing. I was late with certain things, and she's on the ball. There are people out there that will definitely do the thing way, way better than you. And the thing that you do best is growing the business, but you don't have time to do that if you're doing everything else. And I had a conversation with an owner last week, and I was trying to get her to understand about the office manager thing, kind of get someone to do bits and look at your inbox, things like that. And she said, yeah, I'll make sure she looks at some of the emails. And I said, no, she's going to do all of the emails. I said, no, like, don't be doing this half in, half out thing. Like, give her the entire inbox. Like, yes, that's the thing I was going to say. Let people make mistakes. Like, assume they're going to make mistakes because you made mistakes. You just forgave yourself for it because you're the one doing it, right? And just know that this person that you're going to let take over your inbox or Facebook messages or whatever it is, make mistakes. They're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to lose a customer. And, like, they're not going to do it again. And if they do it again, warn them again. If they do it a third time, you need to replace them. It's not rocket science, but it's taking that first step that is hard. Once you take that first step, you literally look back and you're like, why didn't I do this like 25 years ago? It's that first step for sure.
Now, I would love to invite you to the Dance Business Conference, which is held in Birmingham in the UK. This is a wonderful 2-day event where you are going to listen to some incredible keynote speakers. You're going to do some workshopping. You're going to learn lots of new things around running your dance school. You're going to meet lots of exhibitors that have businesses that could be great for you to work with. But more importantly, we're going to make friends, we're going to have fun, and we're going to hang out together, all learning how to be inspired and motivated to run a better school. And of course, we also have the Gala Dinner Dance, which is the red carpet event of the year for dance school owners, where we present the Dance Business Awards. So if you would like to exhibit or sponsor the conference, if you would like to attend or enter the Dance Business Awards, then please go to www.dancebusinesssolutions.com, where you can buy your tickets, find out more information, and hopefully come join me on the 8th and 9th of August. See you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always talking to people about being mindful of the amount of time that they spend in their business as the caretaker and the amount of time they spend in the CEO chair. Because you can't grow and scale and build a dream dance school if you are, sweeping the floors and answering the phones and stacking the shelves. There has to be a percentage of your week when you are being the queen bee, when you are being the visionary, when you're being the person that, strategizes and takes the school where it needs to go. And, doing a little bit of both is fine, but spending most of your time as the caretaker means we're just going to be paddling up a really hard stream for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to know your thoughts, bit more kind of nitty gritty. For any dance schools that are out there that don't currently run Acro as part of their timetable, that might be thinking about it, I'm hearing phenomenal things, have been for many years actually, around the fact that for some very traditional schools that thought they would do this as just a little side class, they might get a half a dozen students. They feel like they should because it's starting to become a thing. I mean, I'm going back 10 years. Are now saying that it's their biggest revenue generating class. Like their Acro classes are their biggest classes on their table. That's crazy. So what kind of revenue could somebody expect to earn if they started Acro and they don't currently do Acro?
Oh man, so much to talk about. A lot. A lot. Acro is an insane lead magnet for dance performing arts schools. It's very visual. It's amazing for social media. It draws people in, And obviously, as a lead magnet, if people don't understand, I'm sure your audience understand the term lead magnets, but generally it's things that draw your people to your business or contacts or leads to your business. Getting them in for an acro class means, oh, by the way, do you want to try tap as well? We've got that on a Saturday morning. Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll give her a trial for that. Okay. Oh, we've got contemporary on Tuesday evening as well. All of a sudden, you tripled the lifetime value, the LTV of your customer in the space of a couple of weeks because they were interested in your acro class. And I saw, I don't know, the 12th, 30th post on Facebook in the dance group the other day asking what are the main class earners. And it was two things: acro, ballet, acro, ballet, acro, ballet, and acro. That was it. The entire thread was the same thing. Not one person said anything else. So if owners are not offering acro, to quote a lot of American people, they're leaving a lot of money on the table. Like a lot of money on the table that can then be used to grow the school in certain ways, can be used to recruit more staff members. The money's not the thing. Money itself is not useful apart from if you burn it to make a fire and receive heat from it, right? Money itself is completely useless. It's what you actually use the money for. It's just trade. You're using the bits of paper to trade for something else, and what you can trade it for is the most important thing. So if you're not offering acrobatics in your school or your theatre school or whatever you own, you're missing a trick because the school down the road probably is. And the moment you're thinking, oh, well, I don't want to add acro to my school because it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the school or whatnot, then the school down the road that is offering it, that is getting students in, are then also offering the other classes to the students. So it's a bit of a double whammy. So yeah, in terms of the actual question of how much revenue, I mean, if we do some napkin math, let's say you have a class which you do for an hour, £5 an hour for the class.
I hope they're
child.
charging more than that, by the way.
Listen.
Can I just put that out there? I hope you're all charging more than £5 an hour, but I'm going to let Peter run with it. Go on.
But anyway, let's not even get into that subject. Oh, but my area is not that affluent. Oh my God! Please, I don't want to hear it. Okay. Anyway, let's say they're charging £5 an hour. Should be more. £5 because it's easy to do mental math with.
I guess
£5 an hour per kid per hour. 4 weeks in a month. Obviously, it's 4.3, but we won't get into that. So you've got one kid, which is 20 quid a month. Let's say you've got a class let's say you've got 2 teachers in the class, you've got 20 kids in the class, right? So we've got 20, got 400 per class, right? We're cool with that math. You do that, you do 3 classes a week. You do the math, it just keeps racking up, and that's monthly. So yeah, there's a lot.
It is a lot, isn't it? Yeah. And so generally speaking, I know that there are some dance schools out there. How do you help them with this problem? They don't have their own premises. They don't have anywhere to store equipment. Like, can they still make that work even without, having sort of the facilities that might be needed? Like, how do they work out the back of a car, I guess is the point I'm making.
I do know some freelancers that do work out the back of a car. We've got a couple of air equipment, air tracks and things. We sell those as well. Air rolls, that kind of thing. The great thing about air equipment is that if you deflate it, especially if you deflate it with the motor, which is a logistical thing we could talk about another time, it really rolls up to nothing. Like it's quite small when the tracks get rolled up. So in terms of storage, 90% of places will offer you the teeniest little bit of, back cover storage, and you can use that to store a hell of a lot of air equipment, and that then can be used as your base. Now, if you don't even have that, yes, you can work out the back of the car. It just limits you to how many students you'll probably have in the class, an efficient class, but you can still have a class. You can still have a profitable class, nevertheless. So yes, you can do it out of the back of your car. You can throw 2 air tracks in there and a roller, and maybe 2 panel mats, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, great to know. Nice for people to think, oh, I couldn't make it work for me. But actually, you can. It might just have to look a little bit different to, the ideal setup, I guess.
100%.
Yeah. And in terms of how Acro supports a dancer's learning, why do you think it's important nowadays that dancers have some Acro training alongside their dance classes?
Well, I'm sure you know, and a lot of the audience would know, but for those that are kind of umming and ahhing, strength, number one, and spatial awareness. If we were talking about the biomechanics of the activity, those two things, if you doubled your spatial awareness, or the level of your spatial awareness, and doubled your strength, your dance and performing arts gets infinitely better. And case in point, I have never seen an ex-gymnast go into dance and do badly. Hasn't, in my experience, just hasn't happened. They might take some time to get to the same level as somebody who's been in a dance school for 7 years or so and so forth. But once they get to that level, it's like an exponential curve. They then start to do better. Because they've got a foundation of strength that some others may or may not have. Don't get me wrong, you can also build that strength up in dance performing arts if you're doing regular conditioning classes, not just the half an hour conditioning class in once a week that I see on timetables. It's regular conditioning in every single class, whether it's jazz, tap, ballet, modern, acro, whatever it is. You're doing 15 minutes hard conditioning every single class, because that's the only way you build through consistency, not just one class a week. Strength and spatial awareness for sure. Absolutely. It just makes everything easier, which is why my gymnastics made my football so much easier, my rugby way easier, my basketball easier. It just made everything I did easier because of the foundational strength that I created. And now, even as an adult, going to the gym, I didn't really go to the gym until I was probably mid to late 20s, because I always did like gymnastics-y kind of stuff. I have a foundation, I have a base, which I can then feed off of. So even later in life, when I've kind of finished some of what we're doing, don't get me wrong, for performing arts, you can obviously hopefully have a career out of it, which again, as an adult, this will provide an amazing foundation for. There's just so many different reasons to get into it.
And in terms of dancers going off to train professionally with the hope of going into a professional dance background, I spoke recently, we had a lovely episode with circus franchisor, and she was talking about how different choreographers are looking for people with different skill sets nowadays. Acro is obviously one of them, isn't it? That's going to really help the professional world.
1000%. It used to be the triple threat, right? Singing, acting, dancing. And now it's the kind of quad threat, because at the end of the interview, we all know the question, show me your tricks, show me what else you can do. And if there's 10 of you in a room and 3 of you can trick, we know what's going to happen.
And, I trained at Lane Theatre Arts, and we're looking at like 38 years ago. Oh my God. And even back then, the question, go to auditions, and the question, who can do tricks? And back then, everyone used to look at each other to go, as if to say, well, how are we meant to be able to do tricks? We don't have a chance to learn these things. And then there'll be the odd person who potentially, well, a bit like yourself, had done gymnastics, come to dance much later, had done gymnastics as a child. And they're like, I can flip. I can do a somersault. And everyone was like, oh, and the job was theirs. But nowadays, obviously, because there are now classes and there's proper training available, it almost feels a little bit now, if you're a dance school owner running a school in a way in which you're preparing your students to go off professionally, and you have children, students, regularly going off and training at the colleges that don't have any acro background, it almost feels like, dare I say it, almost a lack of responsibility for those kids.
Preparation.
I might have ruffled a few feathers there myself. And the only way I mean it is, if those kids go to an audition and they can't even cartwheel, I'm guessing that's going to be something that goes against them now, isn't it?
100%. I mean, if you take draw a parallel with academia, let's say you're a mathematics teacher and you're preparing your students for GCSEs in maths, and you decide, actually, I'm going to leave out those two subjects, even though they're likely to, I can't guarantee they're going to come up in the exam, but they're pretty likely to come up in the exam. But I'm not going to teach them because I'm going to concentrate on these, which, I've been used to teaching. It's the same thing. It is literally the same thing in a different scenario. You have to teach all the subjects, or not teach the subject. You don't particularly have to do it, but you have to prepare the students and provide the opportunity. If that is the pathway you're going, if it's just a recreational school, like absolutely, by all means. But if you're going down the path, as you say, to prepare for a career or professional career in what you're doing, then yeah, you'd be remiss to not prepare them fully.
And the same with kind of singing lessons and, drama, and just an awareness, I suppose, of everything that they're going to need, the tools that they're going to need to at least go away and start with. And so, yeah, definitely, I think something for those schools that are really focusing on that kind of a journey for their students. Definitely something I think that we should all be looking at now. I know if I still ran my school, we would be trying to include this, out of, as I say, a sense of responsibility, wanting our students to be well prepared. It's fascinating.
And can I jump in? Sorry,
Yeah,
can I jump in just when you're just talking about trying to include it in? Something that I do see a lot of is schools including kind of fitting a half an hour class in on Acro each week. There's no, take the class out, please take the class out. There is very little you can do with half an hour. You're better off extending one of your current classes by half an hour, and getting them to really upskill in that genre, in that discipline, rather than taking away half an hour from that space and adding half an hour of nothingness. Half an hour, by the time you've warmed up, stretched, and then talked about handstand positions, half an hour's done in an acro class. 45 minutes, you could kind of get away with it if you're teaching one main skill. But minimum an hour. Our classes, we don't even do less than an hour and a half. And that's for 4.5-year-olds upwards, right? So just a little, I know that it's difficult for owners because they're trying to fit everything in this kind of putting square pegs into circle holes. But if you're thinking about next year, which you should be, the September and so on moving forwards, or even just the summer term from May onwards, I would look at rejigging the schedule, making sure that there are properly scheduled classes in, and you're not just trying to fit it into this planning slot on a Thursday evening between 5:30 and 6 p.m. And do not do that.
I suppose it's, if you're going to do it seriously and do it properly.
100%.
And it's an investment as well, isn't it? It's not a quick 3-hour course for 50 quid that's going to make you an acro teacher. Out of interest, what is the involvement in terms of the training? If you had a teacher that you wanted to put through this, or you wanted to train yourself, and just as a rough guidance, what sort of costs are we looking at?
Yeah. So we have 2 pathways now, which is fantastic, which allows more availability to teachers. So at the moment, we have an assistant course, which is from 14 to 18 years upwards. From the student's point of view, it means they can get into teaching early. So that by the time they hit 18, they're a very experienced teacher, and then they can go through not just other acro courses, but other teaching courses, and probably fly through them. So from an owner's perspective, that's great as well, because then they get an assistant on board that they can put into a class insured that can also expand the size of the class, or the potential for the size of the class, because the teacher ratio is decreases. So 14 to 18, we have an assistant course, and that's online on both live every last Sunday of the month, so you can choose that, or on demand. We've just made it on demand as well, so it's modular, so you can take it. They can take that anytime and take the theory test as well. And then we have a level 1, which again, very similar. So we have an on-demand version where the theory is taken modularly online, or you can do it the last Friday of the month. live on a Zoom call with the theory, and then you go away practice, and then you have to send in a remote video, which is assessed by I think it's 21-point assessment. So it's very thorough assessment that go through. I would say vast majority of people pass that first time. There's probably about 10-15% who don't quite pass it first time, but we give them more support to get through it. And I would say 99% of it pass, 99.9% pass the second time for sure. So it's not like it just saying, here's how to do a handstand, a cartwheel, and an aerial. Bye-bye, here's your certificate. It's a very thorough process that we go through.
Great. So it's, people, if they're going to do it, if they want to get in touch with you, we will make sure that we've got your links in the show notes so people can come and find you. But where would they find you on social media if they wanted to track you down, Peter?
Literally type in Acrotrix, Acrotrix. It's on my head. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we are on LinkedIn, we are on Facebook. We are also on YouTube, which we're going to start building out very soon. All these channels, just not X, Twitter, whatever it is. You won't find us there.
All right, excellent. So people come and find you to presumably kind of look up more information and how they can get started, which is brilliant. And I always love to kind of wrap up and finish our interviews with some fun, fast kind of shoot from the hip questions. There's only about 6. And the key here is to not think about it. It's whatever comes out first. So are you ready for these?
Not really, but we move. Let's go.
Okay, we're going to do a really easy one to start with. Favorite food?
Thai.
Favorite pastime?
Reading or watching anime?
Something off your bucket list that's going to happen this year?
Oh, Jesus. I don't have a bucket list.
You don't have a bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list. Something that external investment.
Okay. That sounds like a very sensible bucket list. Okay. Favorite business book apart from the E-Myth, because you've already mentioned that one.
$100 Million Offers, Alex Hormozy.
Oh, I had a training with Alex Hormozy the other day. My business coach had him on as a guest teacher. He was amazing. If you could hang out with someone from history that is no longer alive for 15 minutes, who would it be and why?
God, he's no longer alive. My God, this is hard. I'm going to go for... Sorry, I've got 2. Marcus Garvey or Nelson Mandela.
Okay. Do you want to any reasons why?
Yeah, Nelson Mandela, obviously, for everything he did in South Africa for apartheid, and his story is insane. Marcus Garvey, again, for what he did in the Caribbean. I'm very true to my culture and my roots. So, there's a lot to say. Got to be one of them.
Okay, and last question. If you got the opportunity to hang out with someone that is still alive for 15 minutes, who would that be?
Michelle Obama.
I love Michelle Obama. I read her Becoming Obama book. Really insanely insightful and inspiring as well. Love those answers. Thank you so much, Peter. It's been really interesting hearing about your background, how Acrotrix got started, but also how it can really benefit some of our listeners. And because your course is online, people can do this from anywhere around the world, can't they? Because we have global listeners. So if you're not already running acro classes, maybe this has inspired you today to delve into it and have a little bit more of a think about it. It's always lovely to look at different income streams and how people's dance schools can evolve. If not now, at some point in the future, maybe. It's been really helpful, Peter. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
This is great. It's been, you've definitely inspired me to speak to more people and got the brain juices flowing for sure for today. So I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.